I think that's the biggest thing to us, is that we always know we're going to find ourselves doing something fun, pushing the boundaries, challenging ourselves, and making a space that inspires or just creates a sense of wonderment for the community. And that's what we're doing at the brewery with our beers and events and community outreach. That's Brewhalla takes that to another level. I don't know if it's up or sideways or wherever we're going next, but it's going to be cool.
Yeah. Just come along for the journey, right?
Yeah.
Hey there, I'm Ashley, and this is New Day with Ashley. If you're looking for inspiration to make a difference and create lasting impact, then you're in the right place. Get ready to be encouraged by the stories of my guests who have taken risks, overcome challenges, and created opportunities. It's time to make the most of your new day. My guest today is on a mission to create and destroy. Create experiences and destroy expectations, that is. Mark Bjornstad, co-founder and president of Drekker Brewing Company, is focused on pushing the boundaries of experimentation, all while having fun, creating good times, and most importantly, creating community. Mark and his team of misfits are on a voyage of tasty beer, amazing experiences, and keeping it weird. All right, well, welcome to New Day with Ashley, Mark.
Yep, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to be here too. Anyway, so congratulations. Is it 9 years?
Yeah, we had our 8th anniversary this last fall. So
Okay, 8.5.
in our 9th year.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's a time warp.
Yeah, and big things happening.
Yeah. Yeah, we've always got a project on the hopper. And we've got our Brewhalla expansion project opening here in probably a week or two.
Okay, awesome. I know the community is anxiously awaiting this. And we will get there. We will talk about that. But I do want to talk a little bit about, how you got here.
Sure.
And we can kind of breeze through that. I know that's not what Drekker is. But from Moorhead.
Yep.
And like myself, went to Concordia. And then you just got into brewing. No. That's just how it went, huh? Is that how it went? No.
There's a couple little jumps in the middle, but yeah, that's where we're at now. No, I'm from Fargo Moorhead. I grew up in Fargo, did like the grades in Fargo and then moved to Moorhead. And so I kind of have been both sides of the river, went to college in town, and then left for quite a while. And, home does funny things to you.
Yeah.
Most of which make you think about coming back when you said you never would. A few years
getting
before,
out of here. Yeah.
I moved back in 2010, and a few years before that, me and my best friend, who is one of the people I started the brewery with, we're starting to talk about, I'd say we were complaining about Fargo, talking about how we're getting pulled back there, but we don't want to, and this, that, or the other thing isn't happening in town. We'd rather be in Minneapolis or Denver, some other spot. And then we got to the point where, I think there's some other inspiring people that had an impact on us, some things that we thought were impressive, and then a need that we knew was there, and we just kind of caught ourselves up in the trap of, focusing on what Fargo wasn't, and then realizing that other people were adding to the community, and that's something we could do too.
Okay.
And then let that draw from home pull us back. And the reason we did it was, the reason we moved back and started doing that was that we committed ourselves to doing a project.
Okay. Together.
Yep.
Okay. So then does that bring us to like 2014 and you guys decide, hey, we're actually going to do this thing? Or you'd been doing it.
We've been doing it. We had, if Darren and I say we're going to do something, that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter how long it takes us. And we had kind of committed to that we were going to start a brewery. We went and apprenticed at a brewery in Colorado. We had a lot of the background training already. My undergrad and grad work, I spent a lot of time doing the science behind brewing. I'd say I didn't homebrew, I lab brewed.
Okay.
And did it all, used all my open lab hours for working on brewing science and yeast fermentation studies and those things. And we fell in love with the science of brewing and what beer could be. We always loved the boundaries and stepping on the other side of them.
Sure.
But then what ultimately made us, where we knew we had to do this, was what we saw happening in breweries. Mostly, this is all before kind of the taproom trend. Some of the bigger brewing areas like Colorado, Oregon, even on the East Coast, they're tasting rooms.
Sure.
We're starting to function a lot like what tap rooms are now. But we loved how you could have 6 people in that tasting room, and 2 of them are regulars, 2 of them are beer nerds, and 2 of them are just travelers. And we started to see what those 3 groups of people were actually doing there. You know, the locals just liked a cool place to hang out, and they became a regular there. The beer nerds were all in it for the science and trying something new, and they don't want one craft brew. They want all of the craft brews. They want to try it all and hear all the stories. And then the traveler component was really neat because they wanted to try and sample what was like most organically that local community.
Sure.
Not just a product that was made there, but a experience and a conversation with people that are there. And we would go to these tasting rooms. Like I said, there'd be like 6 people there. And by the end of the night, everyone was talking about something else in their life, and it wasn't about beer anymore. We thought that was the coolest thing, that brewery could catalyze that moment. And people were talking, and they were having a conversation, and you walked away from there and that was one of the best, coolest nights ever.
Yeah.
And it was just a tiny little tasting room. So that's where the conversations came about, like, well, what could we do with this? And let's blow this up and see where it takes us. And we knew there was a need for that in Fargo. There's always been a loss of those community spaces, especially I think coffee shops served as like the last community space, and then Wi-Fi kind of killed that. All of a sudden people had headphones and laptops, and then they weren't talking anymore. And we saw, and nationally, the trend became that brewery tap rooms became that third place for people and made that community living room. Yeah. So that's what drew us to doing it.
Sure.
And like we said, then it's been a time warp.
Yeah, ever since, yeah. And I think, I like how you found those groups of people and like really creating community, because that's what you guys do really well, I feel like. Was this somewhat of a risk then for all 4 of you?
Oh, yeah.
4 of you, right?
Yep.
Or was it less of a risk because there are 4 of you? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you go down with a business, it goes down hard. It's a flaming crash. So that means 4 families are going down on this one. I don't know. I don't know if it's more or less. It's right up there. But and then the risk it's real. I think that we did some good things and we did some really dumb things that made it riskier for us, where we were severely undercapitalized, which we intentionally did.
Okay.
We didn't want any investors. We didn't want any outside control. That's something that we're still really proud of it, that everyone that's involved with Drekker is actually involved with Drekker. And that was important to us because we knew that there could be no influence on us that was solely a financial interest. Everything had to be totally organic to who we are and what we were doing.
Yeah.
And that was good because we always knew who we were and we knew what we were supposed to do. But it was incredibly hard because
like if we
one
had
of the things we knew
money.
one of the things we knew about ourselves is we didn't have a lot of money.
Sure.
That's actually one of the biggest digs I think we get from a lot of other, whether they're competitors or computing people, is that they think Drekker is backed by a ton of cash and that we always had a marketing firm behind us and we had contractors that we just rolled out cash for, and that's absolutely not the case.
Yeah, so we'll set the record straight. No,
yeah. I mean, we, the 4 of us,
bootstrapped. Yeah.
Everything that could have been done in, both breweries that we've done in Brewhalla, if we don't need a license to do it, we are doing it. We have to let electricians do their thing and plumbers do their stuff, but
we'll figure it out. Yeah.
Everything else we've done ourselves, and it's something we're really proud of. It's something that was backbreaking, but that's how we kind of controlled some of that risk. But we always kind of joke too that we've stopped counting how many times we've pushed all the chips back in, and every time we do it, we get a little less scared of how that is. But that's become kind of one of our core decision making points inside the company, is that is this something that we're going to push our chips all back in on?
Sure.
And it actually scares us if it's something that we're not willing, or we don't think that this is something we can fully commit to, because then it's something we shouldn't do. It's obviously we're wavering on something there, and
that doesn't deserve the time to be.
Yep. If it doesn't deserve all of our risk, then it doesn't deserve any of our time.
Okay, that's really good. Yeah, to get to that point though too of like, we're all in or we're not doing it. What about the name Drekker?
Yeah. So it's partly a made-up word, partly a slang word. We wanted something that would be totally us.
And I think I saw like you're a group of misfits or something. Is that what you guys kind of coin yourself as?
We always talk about ourselves as misfits, weirdos, the strange ones. And Drekker is really kind of a mashed up word of like Old Norse, where it shares the meaning for like a Viking dragon ship.
Okay.
Which we knew we wanted to brand ourselves around that Norse culture, but we wanted to have a lot of fun with it too, and not be so historical, but be a lot more whimsical and dark and goofy with it.
Yeah.
And you can see that in a lot of our artwork and branding.
For sure.
But then, so that was our connection to, like the Yum-Cum ship and the local community and our heritage here. But the current use of the word Drekker is kind of in Icelandic slang, which is the closest language to Old Norse still around. And it means, it's the verb to drink and kind of share that moment of drinking and camaraderie with your friends or around a table. And that's everything that Drekker is about. We always kind of say our mission statement is that, beer is our craft, but Drekker is about much more than just the contents of a glass. It's about what happens when a few of those glasses get raised together.
Very cool.
And on the outside, we literally don't care if anyone else can figure that out from Drekker. We'll tell the story whenever we want to, but for us to remind us of what we're doing, that means a lot to us to see that on the building every day when we walk in and remind us, this is why we're here, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Full steam ahead.
This is who we are.
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. And walk us back to the first day, like of opening your first tap room.
Yeah. Well, like I'll give you some context on that.
Yeah.
We when we opened that brewery downtown, we had to fight for everything. The city did not want a brewery downtown. We're really good friends with the crew over at Fargo Brewing Company, and they did a great job with their project. I think that the city's lucky that it was them, because it seemed like the city was just excited that a brewery was opening. So then they didn't really do much with that. We went through the normal code stuff, but then as soon as we put ours in about a year later, it put up all the roadblocks about, if this is going to be a thing, we're going to have to reevaluate some code stuff on this and some use permits and variances, and they tried to hold us up on every end. And so we talked our way out of stuff. We would weasel ourselves into conversations and meetings and do anything possible to survive. So we got to that opening day, having pulled our hair out, fighting for our lives for, over a year. And I still remember, if we didn't open, we were basically out of money. And so it was, I think me and Darren had been up for days on end. I'd been working at the hospital. I was doing call shifts coming back to the brewery. And I think we'd essentially been up for about 5 days.
Sure. Finishing
the brewery, sleeping for maybe an hour a day or doing that. And
because you're all working like day jobs while doing this.
And I remember Mason actually lived in the apartment building above the brewery, and it was like 2 hours before the soft opening. We actually got our CO, and a couple of us went up there and just tried to lay down and sleep for an hour because we were delirious.
Sure.
And I remember trying to do that, and it really didn't work. And we came downstairs, and Darren and I were sitting on the steps of the brew house, and I remember asking him. I remember saying, like, I'm I don't know if I'm tired or exhausted or scared, but I'm either going to puke or cry right now. And I don't know why.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, what are you scared of? I was like, Darren said something about how he was worried that no one was going to show up. And I kind of thought about that for a little bit. I thought, thought about all the stuff we'd done to get there, what we knew we were going to do. And I was like, I don't care. I don't care if anyone doesn't show up. We did it. Mm-hmm. We did it exactly the way we said we were going to do it. We fought hard. We're here.
The rest doesn't matter. Yeah.
Who cares? And that was kind of a liberating moment for us where we've looked back at that, or I've looked back at that moment several times and kind of tried to channel that same thought about like, all right, am I holding myself back based on some fears that other people, that I'm going to allow other people to project onto me? Or, do I really care about that stuff? Or if we put it all in and it doesn't land, who cares? If this is what if this is who we are and this is what we're supposed to do, I don't care how it goes down.
You're right.
And that's like my clearest memory of opening the brewery downtown.
Wow. So some people showed up.
That and then when people did show up, we had a line outside the door. My dad was just desperate for a job.
Okay.
I think it was the most proud I've ever seen my dad of me.
Yeah.
And it made me question, like, I did a lot of other stuff that I thought you would have been proud of. Not that he wasn't,
those other
but
things,
like, this, you seem really proud of this. And, I think, fatherly, your son opening a brewery, that probably hit the marks.
Yeah,
for
right,
my
yeah.
dad. So my dad wanted a job, and we're like, we can't let him bartend. He's just going to talk to people the whole time.
You'll have lots of regulars.
Yeah,
no.
My dad's great, but like, let's just say not on brand. and
Sorry, Dad.
So we gave him the door job. We're like, that's a great dad job. He can check people's IDs. And we opened, and like one person every other minute is coming in the door. And we're like, what in the heck is happening? It's like taking forever. And I thought, well, that's my dad. He's kind of a stickler on stuff. Maybe he's just like really checking IDs. And then finally I got to the couple people in there. I was like, I'm sorry about the wait outside. That's my dad out there checking it. Like, oh no, he was great. Yeah, he told us that you're your son. And he was just looking at everyone's IDs and seeing if he knows anybody from their hometowns.
Oh, gosh.
Like, well, that's,
Yep,
that is
that's
also
my dad. Yeah.
That's my dad. Just
that personal touch,
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's
funny.
the other thing I remember most about opening.
That's pretty cool for him too, to have that a part in that too.
Yep.
But within like 2 weeks, you guys were outgrowing your space.
Pretty much. I mean, we didn't have the cash to expand.
Okay.
Because we don't have cash. We
Sure.
Don't,
Yeah.
We don't have capital.
So it's just cash flowing its own.
Yep.
Okay.
So, we either dipped back into our own pockets and did capital calls internally or cash flowed it all. And then pretty much as soon as we had money for tanks, we bought new tanks or we bought a canning line or any of that stuff. And
is this mainly like you're servicing inside your tap room?
Yep. We wanted to do distro from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to balance those two. We know that there's, we knew there was great partner bars and restaurants in Fargo. And we felt that it'd be instrumental to the local beer scene that local beer be represented at those places. It's always cool if you can sell everything at your tap room or be a tap room only model, but that's pretty self-serving and doesn't build the community.
Right.
So we wanted to make Fargo the beer scene and build that community as much as we could. So within I think 2 months of opening, we're trying to gear up for distribution.
Okay. And I think also to recognize it's not like competition. If I'm selling my beer at this restaurant, it's not like competition. Now people aren't going to come into my tap room. They're eventually going to come in there like, I want to know what this is all about.
Yeah, and I think we offer a different experience.
Mm-hmm.
We offer a connection to the product, and it's craft, and it's it's value added egg. There's a million reasons people want to come to kind of the epicenter of the product.
Right.
But there's a million other reasons that people want to go to a bar or restaurant. And I think one of the best examples is that we don't have TVs in our space. We didn't have TVs downtown. And part of that is that we're not a sports bar. We love sports bars. We go there all the time. But if people want a sports bar product, they should go to a sports bar for that because there's 30 TVs and every game on there, and we can't do that. And we can't do it well, so we won't do it at all. And that's a product that customers need. That's an experience that they need. We want to have our beer be a part of that. We want to support that business in doing that, but it's not competition because we're two totally different vibes.
Two different models.
Yep.
Like you've got pinball machines, and you got a whole stack of like board games, and like, so again, like, kind of going back to what you guys noticed of like, these people are actually having conversations. They're not just sitting with their headphones in all by themselves. They're communicating. Meeting
each other. We've got groups that have been coming to us for years, and regulars that met each other, then become friends. And those are awesome stories. That's what we do it for.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, talk about rapid growth. Then at what point do you go to the location you're at now, which is the coolest building and like the oldest building before?
It's one of the oldest buildings by size for
Yeah.
sure. You know, there's it's before North Dakota was a state. That building was started being built in 1883, and most everything that's before 1891 with the Fargo fire, that's burned down.
Right.
There's some buildings on the south side of downtown, on like South Main, that are still around, but those are retail buildings, different style.
Right. Yeah.
There's not much on the scale of that manufacturing building that we have. You know, it'd be us, Plains Art Museum, and like Fargo Brewing are probably a few of the only buildings that were ever, you know, big manufacturing buildings now that have been turned over to another use. And what we love about it is that they're all highly public buildings too. So the building that we're in was always a building that we wanted. We broke into it when we were trying to find a location. I think the first time we got in there, we immediately went back out the boarded up door that we pried our way through because we realized we weren't the only ones in there. And try it again in the daylight. But we knew when we first started too that was two projects. That was a major building restoration and starting a company and brewery. And I go back, we're limited on staff, undercapitalized. Yeah. We knew that one was more important than the other, and so we kept our eye on that building forever.
Okay.
And that lined up, right around the time that we needed some sort of expansion facility. We either needed a total warehouse, just production area, another tap room, whatever. We were out of room. We had filled up downtown and really couldn't squeeze much more beer out of that place. Sure. And just as important, we were busting at the seams for the events that we were trying to do down there. We were doing craft festivals or events in the alley or different things like that. And those were cool, but it wasn't quite what we wanted to be pulling off. And so we needed more space. Yeah. And that's what started us looking for that building.
Yeah. So then you get that building, get it up to code, everything.
We went through, it was about a 2-year project. It was a little over a year to gut it, restore it, get the bones back to a healthy structure, and then a little under a year to build the brewery into it.
Sure.
But that was a totally different project than opening the first brewery. It's different than Brewhalla because we were kind of like peeling off layers of age and crust and like just stuff that was built back in there. And we slowly started to reveal this building. And so every step of that project was inspiring and cool because we were seeing this building come to life. When you do new construction, it looks like crap the whole time. It's dirty. You can't, nothing looks like the final product until about the day before you open.
Sure.
And so you kind of always have this feeling in your stomach. You're like, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if this is going to turn out the way we want it to. But with that building, it was, got the brick cleaned up. We're like, hell yeah, this is looking good.
Great.
We can see it. And like got the windows put back in. Like, yes, this is it. And it worked the whole time.
Awesome.
And that was because we were day jobbing it, running the brewery, and then building that place. And so then that became a third job for us. And I think we needed that to keep us going on that project. But that was awesome getting that open.
And then that, allowed for, more beer, obviously.
Eventually, we
Yeah.
were undercapitalized again and
Sure.
spent everything we could on that building and getting the stuff in there. And so then we grew as fast as we could. We added tanks probably like every other month. We were putting new tanks in that building,
Okay.
growing. And about, what had happened a few years before we got out there was we kind of had a come to Jesus moment with ourselves, with what we were doing, where we were doing really experimental, fun stuff at the tap room. Not many bars or restaurants really cared about that because they wanted something that would sell in volume, and they didn't want to have to explain it to customers. And so then our distributor and these bars and restaurants were asking for some of like the regular beers that we made, and they wanted like Broken Rudder or IPA, and those
Was Broken Rudder like the first one?
Yeah.
Or not?
Yep.
Yeah. And that was like a home run.
Yep, and it's still around.
Yeah.
And we love that beer, but it's not a beer that we ever want to make all day, every day, and have be the only face of the company. And
don't worry, I don't think anyone thinks that's what you're about.
No, it's a
clear
great beer.
you guys are, yeah.
And but we were really passionate about some of this boundary pushing, experimental, new stuff that we were putting out there, and we knew it had to get out into the world. We had to get this out, and we had to get our name on it because we knew what we were doing was special. Mm-hmm. And so we had a meeting with our distributor. We were going into cans, and all the pressure from liquor stores and retailers, and everyone is like, you got to have under $9.99 4-pack or 6-pack. You got to hit these regular flagships. These always have to be available. And we looked at this, and we had built the model to do it, and looked at all the financials, and we just said, like, it's not us. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
So what we presented was, we're starting with IPAs, and the cheapest IPA we're going to make is going to cost $16 a 4-pack. It's going to go up to $20. We're going to do these fruited sours. Those are going to go over $20. We're going to do all these rotating stuff. We're going to try and make over 200 different beers a year. We're going to drop 100 new ones a year. That's our goal. And we're just going to burn through all these different styles. And
So like kind of just do them as a once release and then move on, or?
we always, we're focused on new releases, and then they kind of go into this queue of comebacks,
Okay.
and we bring them back on a rotation.
Sure.
And we always try and balance between bringing back some favorites, keep it some new ones.
Yep.
But either way you cut it, we're dropping 5 to 10 beers every week on stuff. And that was, we maybe didn't explain ourselves real well. We just kind of said, this is what we're doing, and we don't give a shit.
We're just doing it, yeah.
We're doing it. I don't think our
ride.
distributor appreciated that as a launch model. They supported us, but I think they definitely were going to wait to see how this played out. It was interesting talking to retailers because we weren't asking for 2 shoots at a liquor store. We were going to need, if they wanted all of our products, we would need 20 shoots.
Sure. Wow.
And nobody gets that
Right.
that
yeah.
space, and we just said, that's fine. We don't care. We're going to make these. We'll make exactly as much as sells, but this is all we're going to make. Mm-hmm. And really what we were trying to do was, we knew that the Fargo scene wasn't there, and that we had to push it. We had to do something and blow it up here in town. And so...
And what year is this? Like
probably 2016.
16, okay.
And so we decided to go to Minneapolis and see if we could get into the publications there, see if we could get a name for ourselves in some of the beer festivals. And our first crack down there, we won like Best of Show, won People's Choice Awards, and pretty much like couldn't drive home because our phones were just blowing up from liquor stores that were like, when are you guys going to start distributing down here? So that's what we did, was we took all those new beers and went down to Minneapolis, and we found that low-hanging fruit where there's a ton of awesome breweries in Minneapolis. It's a huge scene. You get 3 million people around there, and that can support a lot of breweries. Mm-hmm. And those breweries were doing all their special release beers only at the brewery, which is great. That's a cool way to do it. Fargo doesn't have the community to necessarily do that on volume. So we kind of said, well, all the specialty beers are being done brewery only. And these liquor stores look pretty normy. It's all the known entities at it.
Yep.
And they're desperate to get this stuff. So we approached a few liquor stores about, like, all we do is specialty beers, all one-off, everything's a release. Do you want part of that? And When we were doing that, pretty much no other brewery was releasing
Yeah.
that volume of SKUs or doing their specialty stuff in liquor stores. And so we became every liquor stores down there just best friend.
Yeah.
We were killing it. There's
Bet.
lines at liquor stores. People know our schedule when we drop off. So that really started building the fan base
Yeah.
and got us some regional and national attention. And then we just started looking for other markets to do the same thing. Any market where there was that low-hanging fruit where we could come in and where we were doing something, seriously different from the other
Right.
breweries, or where one of our first markets was like Richmond, Virginia and DC. We noticed that with Richmond because there's a few awesome breweries there, but everything they did was brewery only. So the community loved these beers. Everyone knew what big fruited sours, hazy double IPAs, the sticky big imperial stouts. Everyone knew those beers, but no one could get it because it was selling out at the
Only there.
at those things. So then we would go there and
only on tap then.
on tap, or they would do the releases just at the brewery.
Okay. Oh, sure.
So we rolled in and did every 2-week drops on liquor stores, and it worked. So we found kind of our blue ocean, not a red ocean with that.
Yeah.
That's what got us to the point where we had markets, we had fans, we had people that were starting to get into what we were doing, and then come the new brewery where we just opened the faucet up then and tried to find every cool market that we ever wanted to be in, make sure we could still do the right stuff and the beer would get
Sure.
treated well. But that pretty much brought us to 2019, where we had built this very strange, unique distribution model where we were trying to drop very little amounts of beer on New York City, Washington, D.C., Chicago, all these major metro areas without any sales force, just by basically Instagram, and then having it sell out immediately, having people know that you got to get it right away, and then keeping that scarcity and demand going, and then connecting with our audience out there through social media, continuing that voice with them and building it organically. So we were right there turning on markets. We had done some big expansions that made us a lot more efficient, and we could put out beer, or we could make the beers that we wanted to make and still do them on the same scale. And then the pandemic hit. And that was scary when we saw what was happening, but we pretty quickly realized that this is all going to go through liquor stores then.
Sure.
And that is the model that we've just made.
Right.
So go. And we've always said that we've never built a brake pedal into our car. We just added a third gas pedal and just go. And so we dumped it all on. Our whole team just, went absolutely bonkers on getting stuff done. And we,
So did you see the demand just go way up?
Yep. And then
how about locally then too?
Yep. As we've built national, national fans, bigger markets, that almost slowly trickles back to Fargo.
Yeah.
And then that raises the tide here in town, and they kind of go together then. So that's kind of how we got to where we are now, and built on that distribution model and how we do things. And it was scary and terrifying, but it worked for us.
Right. Yeah. It was neat that you were actually prepared for that, not figuring it out of now what do we do? We got to close and.
Yep. Because we were looking for the next couple markets that would make sense. We don't like approaching people and trying to pitch them on us. We would rather have them come to us.
Sure. Yeah.
The story I always tell is when we were starting out in the beginning with Minneapolis, I didn't want to cold call a liquor store or drop off and do samples. It's not often well received. There's a little bit of a power gap there. I wanted the liquor stores to hear about us and then they want to deliver a cool product to their customers. They want to get that. So we needed them to need us.
Right. Yeah.
So I have a 952 number, and I just used to call liquor stores and say, did you guys get this delivery of Drekker or whatever? Like, oh, it's okay. I got other places that'll get it. I got to get this. And it'd be hours at most, and I'd have emails in my inbox about,
nice.
We got to get this beer in here. We can do that.
That's great. Yeah.
So
Tips of the trade, you
Yeah.
know.
the real secrets of
Yeah,
how,
the
how
real
it gets done.
secrets. Yeah, that's good. But you guys, yeah, obviously survive that, and growth expands. And I'm sure you, at the same time, you've always had this greater vision, which you have a huge space right now, and now there's even a larger space.
Yeah.
But it's allowing many other things to come into play too. So I guess we should still talk about your current space. You have like programs like the Unpillaged program
Yep.
or
Yep.
project.
Yeah, where we bring in charities that we kind of have aligned values with, that we think are doing a great service to the community, or we think need some exposure or that they could benefit from that, and we pick one charity for every month, and we let them choose if they want however many happy hours they want to do, what fits their needs. They can set up a booth, we'll do an event with them. Whatever gets them the exposure, or, if they're looking for donations or for volunteers, or they're trying to offer their services and get that out there, we give them the stage, and then we donate a portion of all the beer that month, and during those happy hours to them, and then like our tours.
Yeah.
We legally can't give away any more free beer on the tour, so we have to charge for it if we're going to give it away, and we just charge, and then it's all a donation
cool.
to
Yeah.
to that charity that month, and so it's great for them. And we live and die by the community. We're here because we're trying to add and create and give back to the community that supports us. And so we're just happy to work with a lot of these organizations that are doing awesome work and keeping Fargo an awesome place to live.
And I mean, you guys have some of the coolest events that I've been to have been there, I feel like.
We've got an awesome team that, it's almost like we don't really think of ideas, we think of challenges about like, could we ever figure out how to pull this off? And,
What's the most crazy thing?
This would be really weird, but think we can figure this out? And there's almost you could see like that twinkle in everyone's eye about like, they know that this is nearly impossible. This is really hard work. This goes against every like operation standard that we have. We'd have to, redo all the work. But that part almost excites them, that like, no, this is something different. This is what we should be doing.
Sure.
And so, we pretty quickly ran out of space in our huge space for some of those events that we want to do. A lot of them spill outdoors.
Right.
Which we love. It's great to do that, but this is Fargo, and we maybe have 4 months we have maybe 4 months where you can do that. It's still risky to do anything outdoors up here. So we wanted a bigger indoor space where we could pull off events, mitigate some of the risk with it, so we can really commit to blowing the events up to the level that we think they should be.
Sure.
So we that's where we built Brewhalla. And one of the components that went into that was having an event center and the space to connect and kind of build that whole compound to do that.
So event center, hotel,
and then market.
And market, right. So lots of different restaurants, or not just restaurants, shops, I guess.
Yep. Restaurants, food concepts, retail shops, makers, different things like that. It's kind of our idea of the best ideas and the best people in Fargo, and really all together a truly unique Fargo experience all under one roof.
Yeah.
They're people that we were already working with or we had a lot of respect for, and it's a big community neighborhood of like-minded people that are all on the same wavelength as us, and we're going towards that same goal.
Yeah, and like pretty much all the people that I've seen so far being part of it, I'm like, these are like my favorite people. Yeah.
Yep.
This is great. So I'm so excited for that. So challenges with that. You're also, I suppose your staff has grown from, there's more than 4 of you now?
There's more than 4 of us. Yep. And I think that's been the actual secret to any success or anything we've done right, has been the team that we have with us.
When being able to find that team.
That's the hard part. We were really patient with that, where the 4 of us that started the company, are not afraid of hard work or long hours. So we went we would go until we could find the right person. And I remember almost every employee that we have, there's been a conversation where like, how did we do this before they got here?
Sure.
And the coolest part is when it's things like that and parts that we were doing before, when we hire or somebody agrees to come on to our team and, you know, is in and bought in and adds to the culture and then is doing a job that we did or had to do or, you know, kind of apologized for doing, because it's like, I know I'm doing terrible at this, but
Someone has to do it.
There's no one else. When they're doing it and killing it and doing a way better job than we ever could have, that's the most rewarding thing, to hand that off to somebody and then watch them be successful in that and, you know, build the culture, add to what we're doing, and see that dream come true. Like we love that. And that we've had that conversation, like I said, about literally every single person that works there.
That's awesome.
And it's a great group of people that support each other, do what's right for the company, do what's right for themselves, and do what's right for the group.
Yeah.
And it's rewarding to work with them and grow that team and see other people come into it. And that's my favorite part about working there myself.
Sure.
So we've grown our team quite a bit. We've got a ton of amazing, talented people, and that was a big part of Brewhalla. But a lot of Brewhalla is the other individual businesses that are there. So, you know, we don't staff their shop stuff, their business. So it didn't put that much load on us from an operations. The brewery's already scaled for beer production, but we were able to build out, you know, in our content creation and art direction department. You know, we've got full-time person in that. Our event side and the planning side is, you know, a killer team putting that stuff together. So it let us take some things that were part of some person's job or a group of people were doing, and now there's dedicated people for all those aspects. And we kind of feel like because of Brewhalla, we're finally coming into like who we actually are and
Sure.
have the right group and balance that we always wanted.
Yeah, I'm sure that's really cool to like look back on too, and like from that first time sitting on the step wanting to throw up or cry, you know, now too, which I'm sure you still get some of those, I don't know, butterflies or something of like, oh wow, this is happening.
Yeah. Like I said, we don't care anymore.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, we do. It affects us. You feel that stress, but
you know why you're doing it.
We know why we're doing it, and it's worked out before. And when it hasn't worked, we could look back and say like, we know why this didn't work, and there's always a post-mortem on it, and we could see that like, yeah, it's because we didn't stick to it or we didn't do that. And so now we know that as long as we're going all in, this is going to end however it's supposed to.
Sure. Yeah. So do you get to create any of the beers? Because you said you were doing some of that in your lab class.
Yeah.
So
I still take a lot of satisfaction and spend a lot of time on the recipe creation for a lot of them. So between myself and our head brewer, Tom Knowlton, who now is an owner, he bought in a few years ago.
Okay.
Tom's got one of the most creative senses for things. He's got an unbelievable palate. He's also a giant of a human being and can just like lift boulders, and Tom can just do things.
Beer barrels?
It's like he has superhuman powers. Sure. And so Tom has this ability to just get unbelievable amounts of work done and do things that seem impossible. And that's what we're trying to do with the beers we do is do a process, create a flavor experience that otherwise hasn't been done, or there isn't a piece of equipment for it. We have to think this whole thing up. So Tom and I spend a lot of time together coming up with all the new recipes, dreaming up the ideas, and then figuring out a way to execute them.
Okay.
And so I can't take whole credit of anything. And really I'd like to say that a lot of this now is Tom and inspiration from the rest of the team. I think my job now on it is just trying to be like that supportive voice in the background of like pushing everything forward. Like, yes, go. Go with the idea, push, and then making sure everyone has what they need to do it.
To do it, sure.
But I still stay involved with it from because I like it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a key part of our company, is that that's where we need to be innovating. So I want to stay on that page, but
Sure.
I don't touch any beer. I don't touch any tanks. I don't do any of the work.
Okay,
And
yeah.
if you ask them, I only make the messes. So
So if someone spilled, yes, you did.
Yeah.
No.
come down there, or I'm the one that makes them do something really, really stupid and difficult, and they're going to have to figure out over the course of a couple months how to make that a
Thanks,
livable
Mark.
process.
Yeah.
So
So those are all your ideas, those ones. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll take credit for those.
well,
No.
they're happy to give me the credit or blame for upending all that stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, that's all I get to do with that now.
How about like the names of them? Who comes up with that?
Yeah, we have, Slack is a very active thing in our company, and there's a thread for beer name ideas. There's a thread for beer ideas. Those are always spinning. But that's another part of the creative process where we have to sit down and spend intentional time, even when you don't feel like it,
Yeah.
coming up with whether it's an artwork concept, a story, a fun name, or the beer idea that lends itself to a name. We'll take inspiration from any point or follow it in any direction. But yeah, that's a big chunk of what I do too.
Sure.
At the brewery.
Do you have a favorite beer?
Period.
Yeah. Or of yours or
Yeah, Ectogasm I think will always be one of my
Okay.
favorites. To me, it'll never be perfect, but it's our dream of an IPA. It's what we wanted a hazy IPA to be before that was really a term. And there's something special about that beer to us. I remember the first time we brewed Ectogasm, that was at that time the most expensive beer we'd ever brewed, and it didn't work out the way we wanted it to, and I had to decide to dump it, and that was like gonna throw up on my shoes.
Sure.
Because we spent more money than we'd ever spent on a recipe. We don't have money, and there was also a thing where I recognized too how important that beer was going to be. That when that beer came out, it had to be our IPA. We knew what it could be. We knew what we knew where we were going with it, and this wasn't perfect. And it took me probably like 9 months to get the courage or just talk myself into like getting back on and doing
Okay.
that beer.
Sure.
I think we dumped it in February, and I think that beer released again in like September, and that recipe essentially has not changed since it released. And
So you made the tweaks necessary.
we
kind
did
of,
we did the
yeah.
stuff that it was tough and hard and cost us even more money and time and kind of sweat over it, and eventually got the beer that I'm really proud of, and I think that's why I like it so
Yeah.
much.
So when you do like a test batch, like how big is it?
We don't do test
Okay.
batches.
It's like
We, for no other reason than just challenging ourselves, have said that test batches are not something that we feel are beneficial. We think that they're kind of like training wheels, and they just make you more dependent on the training wheel
Sure.
than learning how to do it. And so the way we usually do R&D stuff on beers is that we will test a process or a new ingredient or a technique in another beer
okay.
in a point that we can control,
Sure.
and through a way that we can assess. And then if it works, it's usually not perceptible to like the customer. It's maybe even just a small part of that beer, but it tests the process for us. It's proof of validation that we can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we might do that another component in another beer, small scale inside that recipe. And then once we know enough about that or how it performs on the full scale system, then we spin that into the recipe that we
Okay.
actually want that showcase to be.
Wow.
And even when that becomes the recipe that we want it to be, that will probably have a small test that we're doing for another beer that won't come out for 6 months. And
Okay.
everything we do kind of has,
Builds on.
it's some work that we've been working on to get done, to build up to. And that we really want to get out into the world, but then there's always this small seed of another idea that we're trying to cultivate and see and build that up and get that out into another idea, but they're always tested on full scale.
Okay, wow. And what is full scale? How many barrels is that?
So our brew house is a 15-barrel brew house.
Okay.
But for the most part, our 15-barrel brew house, we pretty much only produce either 60 or 100-barrel batches.
Okay.
So that brew house just turns out
Keeps-
multiples
yeah.
of everything.
Seems like that place is running a lot. Mm-hmm. And like I was there this morning for Start a Brew, and I'm like, there are guys coming in and out that door, forklifts coming all over and doing
It's
things.
Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
Yeah, and really because of all those flavors. I
Yep.
mean, it's all different kinds of flavors.
Yeah.
So, anything that's really surprised you about running a business, because you are the president.
Yeah, I mean, it's all surprising.
Each day.
Yeah, I think employees are really surprising to me, or were. Whether it's part of my upbringing or in my previous careers, I really only thought of myself as a individual person, and my sole contribution to things. And you get into that when you start to think about opening a business. You get into that E-myth idea where you're starting it because you're the good practitioner of that, or I liked making beer. You don't get into it because you're a good manager, or
Sure.
You have great HR ideas. And so when we got to be the size of a company, that was a big challenge for me to not be an entrepreneur anymore, but to be what the employees needed me to be, to share communication. I'm not a good communicator. If I had it my way, I would never tell anyone anything. I would just do stuff.
Sure. And not delegate either then?
I am terrible at delegating. I
Sure.
think I've gotten a lot better, but I started at very low levels of aptitude on that.
Sure.
Because
That's hard,
I always
yeah.
had the mentality of
I'll just do it.
do it. If I want it done right, I'm going to do it myself. And I mean, obviously, like when it was the four of us, one of the partners, we all kind of shared that and did that together. But I think being an executive or being the leader of the company was something that was very surprising to me. It wasn't. I can't just say we're going to do something. If the employees are going to do it and they're going to spend their time and put their labor into it, they want to know why we're doing something,
Yeah.
and they should. They expect a lot from us because we expect a lot from them, and I have grown to really love that side of the business and to continuously work on that for myself, to be a better leader, make sure we're taking care of our employees and doing right by them, and then getting them what they need, and overall being the company that we want to work at, and being the best company that we can for our employees. And in the inception period, I never really thought of that being a big component, because I honestly didn't even really think about employees.
Sure, yeah.
We only thought about we're here, we're doing the work, it's the product, we do that. And then as the team started building out, it was very noticeable that like we need to bifurcate ourselves, and I need to have another part of me that deals with this stuff.
Sure.
And that was probably the most surprising thing.
Yeah. Well, and it really does come from the top down. So that example that you're setting trickles downward too, I think.
Well,
that culture, all of it.
If it's not at the top, then you're just toxic at your core. It has to go. It's in, out, sideways, left, right, up, down, always. That person at the top has to live by the values and take care of the employees, but the employees also have to, be in for the work and be behind the cause. Otherwise, they're not committed. And so everyone has to be in, and everyone has to hold each other accountable, and everyone has to be treated fairly. And if you have that culture and you can do that, then it works.
Right.
If you don't, there's a lot of problems.
And okay, I don't think we ever said how many are there on staff now. Do you know?
We're over 50 now.
Over 50. Okay. Yeah.
With Brewhalla, we've been hiring for lots of
few
different
different
jobs.
things there, yeah.
Yep. So that's
Yeah.
that's fun. We take a lot of pride in what our employees accomplish, and we do everything possible we can to either make sure that this is a career that's rewarding, lucrative, and gives back to them, and it's a space that they're proud to be with each other.
Yeah, you mentioned that, like, where would we want to work, so keeping that mentality as you continue to grow. What are you most excited for in, like, this new, the Brewhalla opening? Or is there something even further on the horizons you're like, oh, I'm excited about the next thing already? No.
Well, there are.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about that
No, that's
yet.
fine, yeah.
I think, to me, and I'll make this as confusing as possible, we really, we do not set goals. We do not set endpoints. We don't choose to accomplish an individual thing. It's always about, be who we are, do what we're supposed to do, and we'll find ourselves where we're supposed to be. I'm just always excited about that. If I can keep us on the track that does that, and the team keeps doing all the crazy and fun stuff that they do, I just can't wait to see where it is that we go.
Sure.
It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if we spin off and become a tiny little cocktail bar, and I don't care what it is.
Sure.
It's going to be fun.
Serving pina coladas in
Yep.
February in
Yep.
Fargo. No. Yeah. I think that's cool.
I think that's the biggest thing to us, is that we always know we're going to find ourselves doing something fun, pushing the boundaries, challenging ourselves, and making a space that inspires or just creates a sense of wonderment for the community. And that's what we're doing at the brewery with our beers and events and community outreach. Brewhalla takes that to another level. I don't know if it's up or sideways or wherever we're going next, but it's going to be cool.
Yeah. Just come along for the journey, right?
Yeah.
What would be one piece of advice you'd give to someone else who's looking to follow, whether it's a dream, a passion, just start something new?
Don't do it. I think that that's the advice that I wish I would have gotten or understood at any of this. People told us that it was going to be hard, and that didn't scare us sufficiently. We thought, I work hard. I can do hard. That's I think what people didn't tell us is it's going to scare the ever living shit out of us, and that it's going to make us want to puke, and we're going to stare at numbers, and you're going to have problems that you cannot solve that are going to hurt really bad, and there's no good answer. And we had our first instances with that. That was kind of where we were looking for the adult in the room and be
Sure.
who was supposed to tell us that this could
No one
go
told
this
me.
bad.
Yeah.
And no one told us that. And so my advice to anyone is don't do it. Don't do it because the only way to do anything that's a dream or something that you really believe is that has to be something that is burning inside of you, and that there's no way for you to live if it dies inside of you. And the only way that you can live with yourself is that if you get that out into the world and bring it to life and make it a thing, if that's the only way you can survive, you're not going to listen to me. You're going to do it anyway. And if that's not how your idea goes and that's not what you believe in, then please listen to me and don't do it. I think that if you really want to put yourself out there and take the risk, the reward is worth it. But it is going to hurt. It's going to scare you. It's going to challenge you in ways that you never thought possible. And if you're not in it for that, don't do it.
I like that. I think that what you said in the beginning of we had to put all our chips in. And so now anything that you can't be all in on and know that you have to do this 100% or you're not doing it. So I think that's great advice.
We look at, I think the way we make decisions and always have in the brewery is this something that we're willing to go out of business for?
Okay.
And if we're proud of ourselves for going out of business on that if we have to make a community stance on some social issue and that backfires and we lose support, we don't care, because we had to do it. Sure. And if we're going to go out of business for supporting a certain cause that we believe in, I don't care. That's a worthy cause to go down for. If we're trying to create some new crazy thing or build a giant hotel events and everything, and this is a dream that we've always had, and we go out of business for that, we don't care. That was
something you had
that
to
was
do.
it. We believed in it. We pushed our chips in, and we always think of things really in that morbid terminal aspect, and I think that's what keeps us grounded to like that. Everything. It really can be almost that binary that you'll either make it or you won't. If you make it, there's a lot of chance in that, and that will be great, and everyone can think of how awesome that'll be. But if you don't make it, what's that going to look? What's that look like Monday morning when you're going back to the day job? Can you hold your head high? Will you still be able to live with yourself? Can you answer to your kids when you lost their college fund? That's the thing that I think we've figured out over the time is that you have to be able to live with that part. And if you can live with those decisions and do that, then go.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Why didn't anyone tell you guys that, huh? No.
We wouldn't have listened to him.
What were you saying earlier? Something about the third grader or something?
Yeah.
You could have told that third grader, Mark.
Yeah.
No.
No, I think honestly, I think we'd have to protect ourselves from going back and talking to our third grade self, because
don't tell yourself that. Yeah.
We'd scare ourselves. We'd probably freak ourselves out, and
which rightfully so. Yeah. It is a scary thing, but also, you could fail or you could fly, and I mean, it's pretty cool what you guys have built.
There's no better place to be than when you've got a great group of people and you're all doing something you truly believe in, and it's a group effort that you can share in the success, and you've got a great community around you that supports it and challenges you, gives you new ideas, and to see that space shared with each other, that's it. I can't think of anything more rewarding than that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for your time today.
Absolutely.
Thanks for sharing the story, or a little bit of it. There's a whole lot in between, but I appreciate that. And yeah, thanks for all you're doing in our community. It's so inspiring, and you're creating great places for community. So thank you.
It's what we love to do, and this is a community, like I said, that gives back to us, that we live in. We want it to be great. There's so many other people that inspire us every day, or that we look up to as well, and we're just happy to be a part of what makes Fargo great.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Wow, what a great episode. Thank you so much for joining me. It's always so inspiring sharing these stories. Remember to like and subscribe. I would love if you could leave me a 5-star review. This helps us reach and engage with more people. Join me next week, and until then, make the most of your new day.